Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Suzy Welch. Welcome to my house on the Upper East Side of New York. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Suzy Welch, and this is Pierre. And welcome to my home on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I'm excited to show you around. I am a professor of management practice at NYU Stern School of Business, where I also teach a class called Becoming You, Crafting the Authentic Life You Want and Need. I'm a New York Times bestselling author and the inventor of the 10-10-10 decision-making system. Also, importantly, I'm the mother of 4 and the grandmother of 1 and a dog mom. This is Pierre, as I said, but I have 2 other dogs, Audrey and Sir. So this house is so special to me. I'm actually the daughter of an architect, and I grew up my whole life fascinated with houses because my parents were fascinated with houses. And this house was built in 1899, like every other house pretty much in that era on the Upper East Side of New York. In the 70s, this house was combined with the house next door, making it a double townhouse. And then the previous owners, the famous and renowned movie producer Mike Nichols and his wife Diane Sawyer, did an amazing thing to this house. They took out the second floor, making the first floor have this sort of double story, which is sort of what's so spectacular about it. And they did it to let light in, and it really floods the house with light, which is unusual with some of these townhouses. So when I saw it, I saw that light pouring in, and that backyard. It has a backyard in New York City, and if you're a person with dogs, you get why that's so great. And I fell madly in love with it the minute I saw it. Now, it needed work, but I kind of love that. My whole family is filled with artists, and for me, my canvas is home. So I just took this project on knowing that I was going to be working with Elizabeth Lawrence from Bunny Williams and that we would have a blast. We had a name for it, actually, Suzy's Bohemian Getaway, and that's what we wanted to call it. We're actually in what's the parlor. In these homes, the parlor had a lot of uses that we don't have anymore. Like, we don't have guests wait here until they can be formally introduced. So when we thought about this space, originally the opening to it was much smaller, and I wanted it to be part of the foyer. I wanted this feeling of breathability in the beginning of the house, that you would come in and you would immediately feel welcomed, and that meant we had to open this space up a little bit. And we don't really have any purpose for this room except for that people sometimes like to hang out in it. The dogs love it. I mean, Pierre really loves this chair, okay? And this chair actually has come with me from house to house to house to house. It's a beautiful with the original fabric from the 17th century, and it's from France. I love it. But by contrast, in this room, I also have this magnificent piece of pottery from one of the great living ceramicists of our era. And actually, that's what I like. I like the contrast. And this room was really just an opportunity for me to say, you're about to enter this house where there's a lot of fun stuff going on, where you have 17th century chairs and very modern pottery, and it's all mixed up, and I just want people to sort of immediately feel drawn into this kind of like this adventure, the adventure of the house. So in this room, I have to be honest with you, the dogs are the biggest users of this room, but it does operate as part of the foyer of the house, because the house, like so many townhouses, has a very narrow entrance. And I didn't want that feeling. I wanted that immediate feeling of arrival. So this room is sort of just part of the foyer. I will say there's one very special painting to me in this room. And I love portraits of women from all different eras. I'm fascinated by them. And actually, if I had my druthers, perhaps my whole house would just be filled with portraits, but that might get a little creepy. But one of the things I love the most about this painting is when I was speaking to the dealer and I was interested in acquiring it, I said, what's going on with this painting? And he said, well, actually, this painting was painted of this woman after she passed away. So this is a posthumous painting, a portrait that was not unusual. It's Dutch in origin. And I said, what does the lemon represent? And I thought I was going to get some kind of great philosophical thing. And he said, bitterness. And I thought, well, that's unusual and kind of weird. And so I promptly bought it. But the interesting thing about it is I put it right next to 2 watercolors, actually sort of black ink that were drawn by my children, by one of my children, and I framed them up. But and they were teenagers when they made them. They're actually, all of my children are wonderful artists, and they made this one when they're young, and I actually sort of love that they were experimenting with painting when they were very young, and so these are precious to me in a totally different way. I love the explosion of color and energy of this particular painting. It's a young Brooklyn artist, and I think that who's not yet established, and it's exciting to be part of an artist who's trying to establish an oeuvre and trying to establish followers, bring her into my collection, and just the energy and the dynamism and the sunniness. And so many paintings are somber, and I understand that, and I love the poignancy of many paintings. But I also wanted, when people walked into this house, to look over at that painting and go, "Oh, this is a happy house," and that it was why it has this very prominent place in the house. One of the great lessons that I've learned from Elizabeth Lawrence at Bunny Williams is just about the importance of layering, that a room really needs to be layered, that it's not done until it's layered. And so having the neutral palette of a couch immediately means you need to layer it with this, like this is a beautiful antique tapestry that's just thrown over the back of it. And then this sort of kaleidoscope explosion of different pillows with different kinds of feelings to them, some quite formal, some more casual. Again, the invitation is to come sit down, that this is not just a set piece, that you should hang out in this room and you should take a look at all of the art and even just ask questions about the art. For instance, this print, this drawing, I saw it on live auctioneers. I love the auctions. I was for a while quite addicted to the auctions, and my children had to do an intervention, and I've got it under control now. But I love them for the surprise of them, and I thought it was like $25, and I got it on an auction, and I just love it. I love its energy next to this very serious painting of the woman with bitterness. And then actually, this small print was something that I picked up in Venice when I just graduated from college. I went to Venice for a vacation I remember we stayed at a place where, it was like $2 a night, but there was an art fair, and an artist had this out in the street, and I bought it, and every time I look at it, I remember that when I was 21 years old, I was scrounging around looking for art that I could enter emotionally. And that's actually the judge I have for every piece of art that I think about buying, which is that, do I enter it emotionally? Do I have an emotional connection with it? Does it touch me? Does it move me? Does it make me think? I'm not interested generally in who painted it or how expensive it is, because I will buy a painting for $10 if it moves me. And I want to enter it emotionally in some way. And I think that is why I love art, because of its transformative power, like a poem. This is a needlepoint, and I think, I love the different shape of the frame. I think it's playful, but I also love this moment in this house of kind of a different view of the way courting used to occur. And it's all part of just a mix. I entered it emotionally, and so it went up on my wall. Perhaps the most important thing in this room, though, is the rug. And it was really important to me that this rug be right as you enter the house, because this was the rug that was in my late husband Jack's office. And he loved this rug. We chose it together. He's always around. He's always with me. And even though he has passed away, the fact that you come in, and at least for me, I know he's right here, and I spent many hours with him writing books in his office, and this rug was one that we both loved for its texture and its feeling, and it actually sort of reads as a neutral, which is unusual for me to have a neutral, but it's important that it was right at the beginning of the house, that something that was really, really evocative of Jack would be right there. The table was something Jack loved. He was, he ran a company with a lot of manufacturing, and so he loved this sort of motif of the tools and the screws there. And this was one of his favorites. And this big chest we got when we were traveling. We actually got it in China. A lot of things we picked up in our travels, always to remember our travels. And this was a piece that we picked up and we schlepped it home, and it was not easy, but it was worth it, because that's, the beauty of it, is each piece has meaning to you. And it's very, very important for me not to have set pieces or stagey pieces in the house, that I want everything to have some kind of emotional content in it for me. Our organizing principle when we used to travel together, when my husband was still living, was we would hit a city and we would say, where are the young artists? Where are the young artists? We would do it everywhere we went. It was our organizing principle for travel, and we just loved finding emerging artists. It was exciting for us to meet the artists. So many of the pieces in this house, although not all of them, because I really like older art. I love art from the 17th century in particular, and I love mixing it with new artists. But it was always fun to blow into a city, either abroad or in the United States, and just start our tour of the galleries. And people always used to say, "You went to what neighborhood?" And we would say, "Well, that's where the artists were." And it was fun, and we met many great people that way. I said that everything sort of has to have emotional content, and I would say that everything here, this is a perfect example of it. I went through a period where I just loved amber. I still love amber. Like, I love a dining room table set with amber. And I saw this lamp, and I kind of fell in love with it through a store window in New York City. And then I went back, and it wasn't there, and I kind of got frantic, and I went in, and the owner of the store said, "Oh, actually, it's in back, and we're fixing it." And I carried it home like it was a baby. Okay, so I mean, I have a relationship with objects, obviously. This was something I got on auction, but it's like 500 AD kind of thing. And I thought people have always loved their dogs. I am in a long line of people who are obsessed with their dogs, and I like to think that the person who made this also had their life completely controlled by their dogs, as I do. This was a gift from my son to me for my birthday. He's 35 now and a father, and this was his Christmas gift to me when he was 14 years old, and I've carried it with me from house to house to house, thinking how sweet it was for him to choose this for me. And this is a recent painting that I just purchased. It's that moment where Noah sends the dove out from the ark to see if there's land anywhere. And I love this moment of hope. I love this moment of rebirth. I love this moment of seeking the future. All of us have times in our lives where there's deep change. And I went through that when I lost my husband, and I had to think about how I was going to think about the future. And I saw this painting right in that period. And I thought, oh, I love this gesture of him letting the dove go. The dove does come back and say, there is land, there is a future. And we do go on. And this painting is small, but it represents that for me. And I put it right here in the foyer. I look at it, I mean, honestly, I look at it every day. All right, so going on down this way, I actually have an amazing story about this incredible Korean antique objet. I guess it's sort of a vase. There actually was a pair of them. And probably 15 or 20 years ago, when we were moving into our home in Palm Beach, the movers were moving these vases in. They're precious. And one of the movers, God bless him, dropped one of the vases, and it shattered. I'm not kidding. It shattered into 1,000 pieces. And I just stood over it, and I thought, well, this is a moment where I prove if I'm a good person or a bad person. And the mover was devastated. He was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I simply said, we all make mistakes. I still want to pat myself on the back for that one. I mean, I was like absolutely so mad. I can't tell you. I mean, I was like, oh, how could you? But I thought, like, he hates himself. I'm not going to pile on. And actually, Bunny said to me, we can fix that. And I said, it's in tiny little shards. And she said, there's a place. And they swept it up, and it came back completely repaired. And in fact, I'm looking at it to see if this is the one. This is the one. This was, because I had the other one in another place, and this is the one. It was completely rebuilt after being a jillion pieces. And you know, I kind of love the metaphor of that. I mean, this was in shattered pieces on the floor, and it was re-glued into one glorious piece. It was restored, and I love it even more for that. I love it even more. So the wallpaper was an interesting thing. When we came in, there was very tired wallpaper. I mean, really old wallpaper. And we knew we wanted something that was very neutral for all of my art. And it was going to go from the first floor all the way up to the fourth floor. And so we were very, very particular about it. And the beauty of this is it kind of looks like it's hand painted, but it's textured. And I love it. I love it as a neutral. I think it kind of reads as almost a kind of a beige. But it also has that green feeling of life in it. And it's a beautiful backdrop for the paintings all the way up the stairs. And now for the big of the house. I mean, it was an for me the first time I saw it. This is our living room, family room, everything room. And the thing that makes it very different from most townhomes is that when Mike Nichols and Diane Sawyer owned this house, they did this extraordinary thing where they took out the floor above, making it 2 stories and creating this incredible space that just feels so filled with light and allowed me to do this wacky thing and hang all my art in the same room, basically. And it opens up into the backyard, making this like, it's almost like suburban living with this indoor-outdoor feel to it. Now, if they had not done that, this would have been like a family room, and the room next door would have been the kitchen. And instead what we ended up having, because we took the ceiling, we said, yay, let's leave the ceiling out, although it was suggested to me by the architects, do you want to restore it? Because it's a lot of living space. I mean, when you take the ceiling out, we took out like 1,200 feet of living space, which is in New York, something not to trifle with. And I said, no, I love this feeling. Let me live with it for a while. I have to say, from all the mistakes I've made in decorating many, many homes, the greatest line is let me live with it for a while. So I lived with it, and I thought, you know what? I love this feeling. I lose a formal living room and a formal dining room. But it's 2024, and I don't need a formal living room and a formal dining room with the way I live. And it doesn't mean I don't entertain, because I entertain all the time. But I like this casual feeling that this gives the house. And so we have this light pouring in all the time. It's kind of, it kind of gives the house its modernism and its sunny optimism, and I love that about it. So the chandelier for this room was a big deal because of the size of the room and because how the chandelier is seen from the second floor. We agreed that the chandelier had to be kind of fantastic. And I wanted something mid-century because I thought it would be a funky mix. And also I wanted a lot of light, a funky mix with all the art and this very bohemian feeling. So Elizabeth and I, literally, we were obsessed. We looked everywhere. We looked at auctions. We looked at dealers. We went to art fairs, and we were always looking for a chandelier. And I said to her, no matter what, this chandelier has to be up and installed by this date in February, because I'm throwing a big formal dinner party for a friend who was turning 60, and we were going to throw it up on the mezzanine. In fact, I took out all the furniture from the mezzanine and we put a really, really long table in for a spectacular black tie 60th birthday party for this friend. And I thought, I said the whole view for everybody all night long is going to be the chandelier in this room and the chandelier in the room next door. And she said, okay, fine. And we were like hunting like mad. So we found this spectacular chandelier, and they came to hang it about a week before the dinner party. I mean, we were cutting it very close because the chandelier had to come from Europe, and we were cutting it very, very close. And so to put this chandelier up, obviously, it required this gigantic apparatus with scaffolding, and I was so excited it was going up. And there was like an army of people here, because to hang the chandelier I did not realize how complicated it was going to be. And there was this gigantic structure built in the middle of this room to hang it. And I was in the parlor as this was going on, and I was literally on the phone when suddenly there was, I can only say it sounded like a car wreck. It sounded like there was a car wreck in this room because bolt failed and the chandelier came crashing to the ground. And if you can imagine, I mean, this is a big chandelier, what it sounded like, well, it sounded like that. I mean, it sounded like 2 cars had collided in my living room. And then there was this incredible silence in the house. And I hung up the phone and I stepped out and I said, is everybody okay? And then everybody answered back, I'm okay, I'm okay. I said again, is anybody hurt? And the answer was, nobody is hurt. And then I said, how are the dogs? Because I thought people might be speaking for themselves, but who were speaking for the dogs? And somebody said, the dogs are fine. And I came out, and all of us were looking at each other. The guy who was hanging it was crying. He was in tears. And he said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I said, okay, these things happen. Or, I mean, I was just so overwhelmed with gratitude and relief that nobody was hurt, because somebody could have really been hurt. And so I called Elizabeth and I said, you will not believe it. She said, I've already been called, because by that time the contractor had already called her. And I said, what are we going to do about this for the party? And she said, there's going to be a chandelier hanging there. And I don't know how she did it. She found a dealer in Texas who had this chandelier. We agreed it was fantastic, and we were able to get it up and hung for the party. But nobody was happier about it being hung for the party than I. And and also at the party, it was sort of a fantastic story. So there it is, and it was look, you love your house and you want it to look a certain way, but some things come first, like the fact that nobody got clobbered by this falling chandelier. So this art collection is truly. Comes from, every single painting has a story, and it has come over probably 25 years now of collecting all this art. Every single painting spoke to me in some way. They've been in different houses. I bought them at different periods of my life, and I remember why I bought them. I just bought these two amazing 17th century carved angels this summer, actually, because I felt like that space needed something. But then I also saw them and I thought, these are so unique and so profound and charming at the same time, and I felt like they needed to be in my house, and so I got them. But I would say that each painting says something to me. This is an incredible painting by a German abstract expressionist who painted in the 60s. I love the energy of it. When I first saw it, I remember saying, I would never have that in my home. That's what I said when I saw it. And I got it with Jack, and we both sort of had a love-hate relationship with it for a little while, and it's really grown on me. But I don't know if I would ever have it just as a single painting. It works for me because it's got the sort of charming daisies next to it and this sort of beautiful Dutch still life on the other side of it, and this magnificent 60s portrait. And each one of these paintings sort of came into my life at a different time, but all entered through my heart, if you will. Some of them were gifts that to me or from me to Jack, and I look at them and I feel again like, if my life was a mosaic, each one of these paintings would be a tile in it. And I love them all for different reasons. I would say that I gave him this for when we got married. It's a Matisse. I gave that to him. So that was very special, a gift, but in the other direction. I will say that, oh my gosh, I could really tell you something about every painting, but like actually over here, this is a portrait that my daughter Eve took when she was in high school of one of her good friends, and I think it's a magnificent, first of all, it's a memory of Eve beginning as an artist. She's now an artist, professional artist now, but this is when she was beginning to experiment with becoming an artist. And then my son made this print when he was in high school. Be careful when you fight the monster, lest you become one. And he made that image, and I love it. Was a harbinger for the wonderful man that he was to become. This is a painting that I got on auction of the Isle of Skye. It has absolutely nothing special about it. It was probably really inexpensive. I got it on auction, and I just love the feeling. I love the feeling of openness. And the artist was probably an amateur, and he was experimenting, or she was experimenting with color and perspective. And that's how it all sort of came together. This is an artist that Jack and I found when we were in Argentina, a female artist who was experimenting with collage, and I have brought it from home to home to home. I think it's very unique. Why do I love it? It's hard to put words around it. There are some paintings that I can explain very specifically why I love. So there's a painting over that door of a young girl. She's probably, in my mind, she's around 10 or 11, and she's with her Dalmatian. So I have a large collection of paintings of women with their dogs, and this one does not fit with the collection because it's too large. So I hung it here, but I think I'm glad it's here because of all that large collection, this is probably my favorite. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think that it's a sort of Gothic, and I kind of like how weird it is. But I mostly love the expression on her face and her companionship with her dog. And dogs have played an enormous role in my life. One of the earliest pictures we have of me as a child is of me holding a dog when I was 3 years old. I come from a dog family. My dogs are my companions. And I actually had a Dalmatian, and I rescued her. She was a hospice dog, and that we knew she had cancer when I rescued her, and I was just going to have Miley see the end of her life out with me, and it was a precious time to be with this dog. And she was not a great dog. Dalmatians are tough, and she was mad, and she was not very comfortable, but it taught me a lot about loving dogs when they're sick. And it was a journey for me also. And so I got this painting right after I found out that Miley was a Dalmatian, because she was kind of a mutt Dalmatian, and I just got her DNA done, and I had gotten her from a shelter that had a hospice dog program. And I found out and I thought how funny that I had this painting and then this girl who kind of, oh, I guess she reminds me of me and my childhood and how much I came into my own with the dog by my side. I imagine that she's on Nantucket, even though she probably isn't. And I love her expression. I also think it's kind of hilarious. My thought is that the artist didn't really know how to draw dogs, so he kind of stuck the dogs, or she stuck the dog's body behind the girl, because dogs are really hard to paint. And but the dog's expression is good. But what I love more than anything is, even though this young girl and her dog are not looking at each other, their emotional connection cannot be denied. So a couple of other things about this room. This is this elephant Jack and I found in India, and we kind of fell in love with it. And it's heavy, and we schlepped it home. I have to say that was a epic event, but we love it very much, and it reminds me of our wonderful travels to India. The thing about the seating arrangement in this room is that what I wanted was for it to be very movable, so that, you know, sometimes I have 2 people over, sometimes I have 20 people over, and I wanted to be able to not have it so you could only sit one way. And the other thing about this room is when it was done, I wanted it to have more bohemian feel. So this incredible chair from France, which is an antique and is just a museum piece in its beauty. Everyone always wants to touch it. It came in as part of me saying to Elizabeth, we need to sort of funkify the room. And then this chair, which is just, people love sitting in it. It's Pierre's chair, though. Pierre's always sitting in it. It's is like a Victorian antique. It's just crazy. It would sort of be in your wacky uncle's attic kind of thing. And I felt like it really belonged in this room. We didn't really think about color that much as we were doing this room because we knew it was going to be so eclectic and there was going to be so much color. I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want like navy blue. I didn't want bright red. I didn't want any kind of, I wanted everything to be kind of muted and lived in. And then the jewel tones kind of naturally started to pop along with this rug really kind of led us because it's got this beautiful mauve-y olive kind of vibe to it. The fireplace is original to the house, but actually I love the fireplace. It's fantastic. The thing that's more fantastic are these incredible candle holders. There's Sir and Pierre, and here's Audrey, and these were made by my daughter-in-law, Eva, and she made them for my most recent birthday, and they are precious to me beyond belief. And I think I could put anything on this mantelpiece, and it's kind of a very important moment in the house, and it felt to me that that would be the only place because she so captured Sir and Pierre and Audrey to the T. And I mean, that's the whole thing about your home is you get to fill it with all this stuff that has meaning to you. And when she gave them to me, I was just like, Eva, you must have worked so hard on these. And she said, I love you. And it was so precious to me. One thing that's very interesting about this house, to me at least, is that for my entire life, I'm 65, for my entire life, I've always decorated houses in collaboration with my husband. And so every house we did was really a collaborative project. And it was magnificent. And we ended up creating homes that were sort of a reflection of the two of us together. And there was a little bit of Suzy and there was a little bit of Jack. And then there was a little bit of Suzy and Jack combined. And this house was a different kind of project for me because it was all Suzy all the time. And I could kind of let the sort of Suzy part of me just rip, which is why you see all this art everywhere. Art has been incredibly important to me since I was a little girl, as my mom is an artist, she's a ceramicist, my daughter is an artist, also a ceramicist, and all of my sisters and brothers paint. I don't do that, I can't do that, but I can really, really appreciate it. And so over the years, I have been collecting art. I mean, even when I was in college, I would for $25 buy something at an art fair just to, because I fell in love with paintings like people fall in love with people. I fall in love with paintings that way. And then when I got this house with its unique spaces, I was able to have almost all of my collection around me at the same time. And there's so much variation in my collection. There's old, there's new, there's high, there's low, there's from every different country, every different era, everything you can imagine, different sizes, different feelings. But the only thing that holds them together is my eye. And so for me, it's like the tapestry of my life is all around me with my art. And I wanted the house to feel incredibly livable, like everybody could throw themselves in any place, the dogs could go anywhere, and that it would just feel like this wonderful eclectic kaleidoscope of of Suzy-ness that it would just feel so comfortable and welcoming and surprising. There's not one neutral in this house, I'll tell you that. But then again, there's not one neutral in me. Right off of the living room is the kitchen and dining room. Again, a very casual feeling, but also, operates really well for dinner parties. What we do when we have a fancy dinner party is we put up a beautiful antique screen that allows the cooking to be going on behind it. But on a typical day, this is what it looks like. It's a wonderful open plan, again, with a lot of versatility, which is sort of the whole house has got a great deal of versatility. Again, my art is all over the place, and things that I've collected over time, like these very, very weird frogs with the pink eyes. My granddaughter loves them and sort of is obsessed with the pink eyes. Some glassware that we got a long time ago. And this is just this very weird 60s resin ball, which Jack and I saw when we were decorating a house probably 20-something years ago. And we just saw it, and you know what we said? That's cool, and so we got it. That was how much thought we gave it, but we just thought it was cool. Other pieces in this room, this is a magnificent mirror, which has come with me from previous homes. But it's kind of next to this 1960s painting that I got on auction, which is kind of a primitive. And I think it's the juxtaposition of the two that kind of turns my crank. I love that artist up there because of the artists in my family. Above that amazing mirror is actually a needlepoint. That is a needlepoint rug, which I got framed. I love its image. I love the playfulness of the zebra. And I think it's kind of cool with the Sputnik chandelier, which did not fall from the ceiling when we were installing it. I mean, this room is a real combination of high and low. This is a rug. Actually, this rug was in our previous home when we lived on Fifth Avenue, and we had to have it cut down. Rather than part with it, I thought, let's cut it down. They were able to, and I was really happy to repurpose it. Now the kitchen, because it's connected to the dining room and because we use these rooms just sort of as a big open space and we flow through them constantly, I'm in all these rooms over and over again. I wanted the color just to pop. I wanted the color to be unique and to be playful. And we looked at a lot of greens. And when we saw this green, I remember saying, that's the green. And it's like a little green lacquer jewel box. And it's a highly functional kitchen. Look, this is New York, we're not in our kitchens all that much because we're eating on the fly or we're going out or doing takeout. But we've had many marvelous meals and it does everything. And so this table expands. I can open it up when my whole family's here, and we're able to put 14 people in this room, which fits us right now. As more grandchildren come, who knows, I might need a bigger table. I hope so. All the windows that you see and the round windows, I believe are original, and they give the house so much character. And I love this sort of original detailing, this kind of, early 1900s New York feeling, and then putting this super modern chandelier there also. Well, it was a custom rug that we had designed for our house when that Jack and I lived in together, and it was custom for our dining room in that house. And so that's why I was so heartbroken that it didn't fit in here. And I didn't want to. What was I going to do with it? Put it in storage for the rest of my life. And so I sort of broached this subject, and Elizabeth Lauren said, yes, we can absolutely cut it down without you ever noticing. And so we did. And I love it. It makes me happy. It's got this sort of wonderful fall feeling to it. It's kind of fresh. It's got one of the motifs in it is a pomegranate, which is over here. You would never know it unless I told you, but I happen to really, really love pomegranates. So I think that I love that funky part about it. I thought a lot about ripping the kitchen out in this house and putting a new one in, and I thought I don't want to do that much work. And so we took the kitchen that they had and we decided to paint it and put a new countertop on and get different tiles, and it worked. It worked, and it's a good working New York City kitchen. Hello. Hello, hello. So this is, this is one of the reasons I chose this house. It has this incredible backyard, which makes living with 3 dogs in New York City a totally different experience. It's almost unbelievable. And when people see the house, they're like, who has a backyard in New York City? And I can't believe it's me. I love New York because it embodies all my values. It's exciting, it's diverse, it's, there's this great song that goes, I love you, New York, but you're getting me down. I mean, New York is not perfect. New York has just got tons of flaws to it, and yet that's like all humanity. We have this incredible highs and these sort of, dark sides, and New York embodies all of that. But New York is the center of world creativity. And when I'm here, I feel completely, my brain's alive, my body's alive, and there's just, there's so many interesting people. All my friends are here. Many of my friends are here. I have friends are, also in other cities. But I love the energy of New York. It's my speed. I wish the dogs did use this backyard to sunbathe and just hang out, but in fact, they're like all dogs, and all they want to do is be with me. So they, or be with people. And so, when I'm out here, they come out here. But it's not like we wake up in the morning, let the dogs out, and they have like, sort of like dogs on a farm. That's not what happens. But when we're out here, they do love sunbathing, and the yard is pretty straightforward. I mean, I have neighbors who have done extravagant and very exciting things with their yards, and I have yard envy. But I've taken this yard exactly as it is, and enjoyed it because I think it's beautiful. And when I have dinner parties, I string up lights, and when Christmas time comes, we'll put a big tree here. So for my Christmas party, people can look out and see this very big lit up tree back here. But otherwise, I kind of let it be. It kind of has a little of everything. It's got shade. We hang out here. This is sort of our second living room. Sometimes we have team meetings here because my own little team works here in the house with me. And we sit out here and we have conversations. Sometimes we stay and people eat their meals out there at lunchtime. But it kind of operates as just a little secret garden in the middle of New York City. And you can still hear New York, and you definitely can look around and see New York. I mean, New York is all around you. There's skyscrapers all around. I can hear my neighbors all the time, and they probably can hear me, and they probably hear my dogs much more than they would like. And yet that's New York. If it was quiet, it wouldn't be New York, So it's got all those aspects also. It took me a long time to learn how to create a home. It really did. I have to say, it's a lifelong journey. I'm finally in a home where I feel like I got it all right. Now, I had great help, of course. I don't I get very involved in the design process. I'm in every single detail, as my decorator Elizabeth Lawrence would tell you. But at the same time, I trust experts, especially in terms of scale, because like how big a chair you should have or how tall a lamp you should have, that's a very hard question that I think is better left to experts if you can. But I think it took a long time for me to have the self-confidence to say, this is my home, and I don't need to follow any rules around about what a home has to look like or should look like. I'm a person who just doesn't deal in neutrals, and I had to get to a point in my life where I thought a house can look exactly the way you want it to look. I think tactically speaking, it's very important to start with the floor and the walls, but even more than that, up at 20,000 feet, you need to have a dream of your house before you start decorating your house. And I think that's true about having a dream of a life, which is one aspect of what I teach at NYU. I teach, as I mentioned, this class, Becoming You, where people ask themselves, what is my unedited dream of a life? Is it possible for me to get there? What would it take to get there? And I think with a house, you have to start with a dream of what it's going to make people feel, and really, most importantly, what it's going to make you feel inside. And I wanted a house that made me feel alive and delighted and comfortable and authentic. And that drove me the whole time. Like, does it feel like Suzy? And when we were done with the living room, I remember calling Elizabeth back, and we were standing in the living room, and into anybody's eye, the living room, this room we're sitting in, would have looked absolutely perfect. And I said to her, it's perfect, but it's not funky enough. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, we had this vision of it sort of, I wanted the house to feel like Isabella Blow would walk into it and she would say, I feel right at home here. I mean, I was very kind of specific. I wanted this almost kind of London in the 60s feel to it, this sort of bohemian feel to it. And I said, I think it really just needs to be, and then Elizabeth looked at me and she said, more Suzy. And I was like, yeah, actually, it's my house and I want people to feel me when they walk into it, and I want to feel myself here. And so we had to zhuzh it up after we finished with it. And actually, I think that's just the never-ending process of owning a home. I mean, this house is technically done, but this summer I was at the antique show in Nantucket, and I saw these two 16th century carved angels, and technically there's no room for them in this house, and they are hanging up in this room right now. I just felt like the room needed something wooden. It needed some kind of spiritual feeling to it, and these were so unique, and they were so kind of weird and unusual. And in fact, the description of them said, unusual pair of carved angels. I was like, there's my word, unusual. And I brought them home with me and hung them up, and I thought, oh yeah, the room needed them. Where I come up with my ideas is an open question, and many people have wondered it, including myself. I do think actually my ideas come to me at the strangest times, like all writers and creators. You know, you have an idea, I have an idea in the subway when I'm going to work. But in this house in particular, I love the backyard for this, in that there are times in the quiet in the backyard, I'm sitting out there with the dogs after dinner, kind of taking in the sounds and feels of New York City, which are all around me, and an idea will come to me. When I'm actually doing the hard work, I have a beautiful office in this house, and I sit there, and that's where the grind occurs. But this room that I'm in right now, the living room, is really our family room. When my children visit or when friends are over, and the dogs and I sit in this room every single day. And when this house was put together with the house next door and made into the house that I currently live in, one of the things that was lost was the formal living room and dining room, which would have been on the second floor. And when I got this house, I thought, do I put that second floor back in? Do I restore it? And then I thought, who needs a formal living room and dining room? It's not how I live. I wanted a space where we just lived all the time, and this room became that. And so in this room, I mean, I love to entertain, and I've had many wonderful gatherings in this room of my fellow NYU professors and friends from all over, all aspects of my life. And we have sat in this room and had so many lively debates and discussions, and so a lot of stuff goes on just in this room. And I think it's actually the ambiance of the room, just all the eclecticness of it, invites people just to have their individualism showing and let their ideas just flow freely, because there feels like there's no rules in this room. You know, this is a sort of let it free room, because look what Suzy did. She just put it all out there, and I think when people are in this room, they bring their true selves, their true authentic selves, and I kind of dig that about it. I have managed to accumulate a large eclectic collection of women with their dogs from all different eras, all different cultures, some really special paintings and others just very sweet paintings. I had one criteria as I was collecting these over the past 40 years, which was that there be some true emotional connection between the woman and her dog. And I had no place, these paintings used to be scattered all around any house that I lived in. And then when I got this house, we had this magnificent staircase that goes all the way up to the top 4th floor. And I thought, oh my God, maybe we could put them all together. And they belong all together because they all tell a story that should be told together about the variety of women with their dogs. Up until the Industrial Revolution, pretty much in many cultures, not all, but in many cultures, a woman's only chosen relationship was with her dog. And that's actually depicted in some of the paintings I have, where a young woman, often in her teens, is shown painted before she's sort of given away in marriage to somebody else, and she's there, and the look on their face sort of says it all, and she's with her dog. And I have such heart for them, but given how important dogs were in my life. And so many of these are very precious. Some are very modern, and you just sort of see this liveliness and the sort of specialness of it. But others are really profound, and I love the mix of it, and it goes all the way up to the top floor. So I just got this one. It's from a living young artist. It's a woman with her dog on Rodeo Drive. I just love the energy of it. It's very, very playful. But it's juxtaposed with this a more important painting that's French, of a woman with her dog. And again, what I'm loving, even though they both are not looking in the eyes of their dogs, you know that relationship is real. And again, I love the fact that the collection spans time. There's a 200-year age difference between these two paintings, and then this one is from Korea. There's that painting up there with the German Shepherd is from the Ukraine. These are these charming British drawings that I found in a little tiny print store in London last time I was there, because I'm always looking for paintings or pictures of women with their dogs. And I will say that I'm aided and abetted by my friends and family who, when they see a good one, are always saying, Suzy, take a look at this. So, and I have a hard time saying no. This is probably the most important painting in the collection. The artist is unknown. It's from 1720. It's believed to be a Dutch aristocrat, and this is she's probably, if we're lucky, she's 14, and this is her wedding painting, and she's being sent away to live with her new husband, and she's taking her dog with her along with her possessions. And I think a lot about her expression, which they painted her as kind of impassive, but we know that she probably wasn't. But I love her hand on her dog's paw, and I think that it's a very gentle gesture, and it's like my dog is with me. I have a lot of paintings of women working with their dogs. I mean, in history, women often did their work with their dogs as companions. But I got this painting right after I was widowed, and I was on the beach a lot with my dogs, and this painting kind of touched me. And again, you know, you don't see their faces, but you know there's something emotional going on. I love this. This is a painting by an artist, a living artist in California, and I love the head in the lap. Again, there's something going on there of devotion, of utter devotion. This is a painting from the 30s. It's kind of brutalist in its styling, and yet here's a woman who's sunning herself with a friend or a sister at the beach, and the dog is their companion. I love having it near this painting, which is Korean and very stylized, and yet there's a gentleness to it and a humanity to it that can't be denied. This is a painting that was painted for me of somebody who knew that I loved women and their dogs, and he created that painting, which is a copy of another more famous painting, but it was he gave it to me as a gift, a friend. This is another painting that was a wedding portrait. It's Flemish. I love her hair. I think it's just one of the marvelous things is this sort of hairstyle, and she, again, has her hand on her dog's paw as if she's going away. At least the dog is coming with her. I love this. This is a depiction of a Mongolian woman with her dog. I believe it's Chinese in origin. I also occasionally throw in a picture of one of my own dogs. This is Abigail, who was painted before she passed away. She was a fantastic Mastiff. This is a Haitian print, and it's a woman in a boat, and I got it on auction, and I just love how different it is from the other paintings, and I love this dog as a companion to this woman from this spectacular print. I do mix in some photography, even though most of them are paintings, and etchings of all different types. This is a new acquisition. I just love how she's rolled up with her dog, and there was just something that captured my imagination. And this is a British etching that is just shows them in some kind of Orientalist setting. And this dog feels to me to be a German Shepherd. I have two German Shepherds, kind of a German Shepherd fanatic. There's a lot of different reasons that I love dogs. One is I believe that dogs are the gateway drug, if you will, for people understanding the sentience of animals. So a lot of people enter understanding that animals have an inner life by first their love of dogs. So I love dogs for that, okay, because they allow people to enter into the world of animals and understanding that animals are not here for us, but they are here with us. But then I love, anybody who's had a relationship with a dog understands that a dog knows you in ways and tells you things about yourself that you don't know yourself. And I think that they return us again and again to our humanity. And finally, I would just say that in a world that's filled with difference and filled with anger and too often and is filled with friction, almost everybody agrees that dogs are good and can talk about their dogs. And so I think dogs are sort of like the one issue that almost no one disagrees on, and you can always find common ground with somebody talking about a dog. All right, well, here's my office. This is where all the work gets done, or not. I mean, obviously, the real work is in the classroom at NYU when I'm teaching, but you have to prepare for your lectures, and you have to think about your lectures and compose them. And so this goes on here in this office that's set up so that I wrote my new book that's coming out in May at this desk, and did a lot of the thinking for it here, a lot of the research for it came through here. I do, of course, have an office at NYU, which I also use. But this office is special. I mean, I think one of the crazy things about this office is this is the original wood. It's just this beautiful antique pine. We couldn't have put it in now if we tried. And so It's just got a unique feel to it. We changed very, very little about this office. I hung up my art. I hung up actually some of my most favorite paintings in this room because I'm in it so often. I mean, I make my coffee in the morning and I get here and I start working at 6 in the morning and I stay until I get on the subway to go to work. So I surround myself with a lot of objects, and paintings that I really love. One of the paintings I love the most in this room is of this young girl writing, because I am by trade a writer, and I love her looking out there. It's from the 50s, but I love her just sort of in the act of writing, which is what I do. I started out as a reporter at the Miami Herald when I graduated from college in 1981, and I was there and I continued as a writer until I ended up going to business school, and then I merged my two paths to become a business journalist. But I've written several books, and I still consider myself a writer. But even the act of creating a lecture is writing, and I think through writing. And so I will always be writing. I write every single day in some way or another, and if I don't write, I feel like I've not been breathing. And so I need a good place to write, and I need a place that has everything set up, and all the emotional stuff around me has got to be exactly right for me to write. And I love looking at my hilarious sword from Joan of Arc, who I dressed up as Halloween. Joan of Arc is one of my heroes, and I dressed up as her for Halloween one year, and I bought this wooden sword sort of as a joke, but it has her beautiful famous quote on it that says, "I'm not afraid, I was born to do this." And I teach a class that's about figuring out what you should do with your life, or I teach a class that's completely about answering the question, what was I meant to do? What was I born to do? What is my purpose on earth? That's a gigantic question, which we spend our whole lives answering. But when you are in that moment, when you can be like Joan of Arc and say, "I'm not afraid, I was born to do this," it's perfection. And so I hung it right near my desk because so much of my research and writing is about figuring out what systems and methodologies people can use to answer that question fully and completely and with great intent. Well, the question of home is a really interesting one overall. I just got back from 3 days in Texas where I was doing this spectacular wellness weekend with Hoda Kotb and the Today Show. And it was like a weekend that you would give your, anything to go to. It was so spectacular. I was one of the speakers. I loved it. And then it was so funny. Everything about the weekend couldn't have been more perfect. But when I got home, right? It wasn't like I was running from anything because I loved every minute of it. When I got home and I got under the covers, I literally said out loud to the dogs, "Thank God mommy's home." And there's something about knowing where everything is and being in your place. And in fact, I would say, and I actually teach this, my area of expertise is values formation, how we come to value what we value. And one of the 15 core values that I believe all people have is around place. How much one place is important to us. And some people can live anywhere and they don't have a sensitivity to their surroundings. I'm at the opposite end of that scale. Place is very important to me. My home is important to me because it is this place where you are allowed to be fully yourself and bring your full self to how it feels and how you share yourself with others. And I think also for me, home is a place where family and friends are always welcome and should feel completely welcome. And your relationships not just exist there, but really grow there. And that is how home is reflected to me. Okay, Homeworthy, thank you so much for visiting. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.